Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co host, Arnav Sarkar. Um, Here to talk some Rutgers basketball. The Rutgers basketball weekend, they went 2-0. The women's team beat Lafayette 54-45. The men's team beat Penn 70-69. Um, Neither team looked great in any of their games, but we're going to go ahead and start off with the men's game. That is the big pull around here.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so the men were able to win, beat Penn off of a last second 3-point shot from Tariq Francis. Really, you know, even though it was a team that, again, a team on our level should be beating without much of an issue, you still, those last second shots, man, they really just get your blood pumping, they get
Oh,
the
yeah.
arena going. You saw an excellent pop at the arena when
Oh, yeah, I
Francis
saw
hit
the
that
clip.
final three.
That was
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
pretty exciting.
And that just goes to show that when Rutgers fans have something to root for, they can be loud. You just have to give them something to root
Exactly,
for.
exactly.
You can't
Yeah.
do this the entire time. But anyway, Arnav, you took point on covering that game. Do you want to sort of break down how that game went for us?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was a tough one to watch. I mean, right out the gate, Penn, got off to a good start. I think they were up 10-2, 12-4. Penn, like, they shoot a lot of threes. I saw a stat on the broadcast saying that they shoot over 40% of their looks from three, and that definitely showed early in the game. I mean, they were like almost like five wide at some points, just looking, dishing, kicking, trying to get an open 3-point shot. And I mean, TJ Power was a tremendous player for them all night. I think he had 19 points in the loss. I mean, he was, getting to the rim. Former Duke player. He didn't really see much time over there. Virginia, I think, as well. But yeah, I mean, he's really come into his own as a player here. I mean, he definitely has what it takes. I mean, he could, knock down 3-pointers. He can drive to the rim. He has size. I mean, he was getting his own misses, his own rebounds. He had quite the game. I think like 19 points and like 12 rebounds. So he definitely played really well, but Rutgers fell behind a bit early. Then they caught up, and it was always kind of like Penn was ahead by a little bit by like pushing it to about 8. Rutgers was cutting it to 3, back and forth, and eventually Rutgers kind of got onto a run where they tied the game, and then from there it was. It was kind of back and forth, but again, like Penn, like still took the lead, and it really did look like Penn was going to win until like the final moments of the game. I mean, Penn, they were able to hold on to the lead, build it back up. I mean, so many different things, but I guess what ended up costing them at the end was their free throw shooting. And also Rutgers at the end of the game, they played towards the end of the game, second half, they played a lot of backcourt defense, which definitely, allowed Penn to stay in, or rather, it ended up preventing Penn from, really being able to employ their offense. They had a lot of trouble with that. They turned the ball over in the backcourt a couple times. They turned the ball over in general a lot of times as well. I mean, Jamichael Davis ended up getting a steal. They ended up getting 2 steals at the end, and then sending Tariq Francis to the free throw line. So, I mean, a lot of backcourt pressure, a couple turnovers that ended up in quick Rutgers points. And then, also allowed Scarlet Knights to go to the line, picking up their free throws. And then once they were close enough, they ended up sending Penn to the line, trying to play the free throw game. They were trailing by 1 at one point. So Penn, TJ Power split a pair. Zerna put up a brutal 3-point shot that looking like he was trying to draw contact, didn't get that. Penn had another chance at the line, but Power missed 2 shots. So Penn now was up by 2. And then there comes Tariq Francis in the final seconds of the game, dribbling it up just like Dylan Harper did last year, pulling up for the game-winning shot, and he nailed it. And that was his only 3 of the game. I mean, for all that he did well, he didn't shoot the 3 ball too well. He was 1 for 4, but he made the one that counted. And yeah, just I mean, a combination of relentless backcourt pressure. Making the free throws, Penn missing free throws, and incredible performance by Tariq Francis all game long. I mean, 34 points. He went 15 for 19 at the line. He was getting a lot of opportunities at the line. He was finishing at the rim. And I mean, the one thing he didn't do all game, he did at the end. He made a 3-point shot to push Rutgers over the edge. So I mean, yeah, you could think, oh, that's not going to work, like the free throw game and the defensive pressure, and like you could say it's against a mid major, but I mean, at the end
It
of the day,
worked.
they were able to get it done, and it does work
It
sometimes. There's a
worked.
reason
Like
why
you
that
can't
teams
really
do
say
this all the
anything.
time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it did work in this case, and it does work sometimes. It just a lot has to go right, but in this case, I mean, Power ended up missing 3 out of his 4 shots, and Rutgers ended up making the ones that they were presented with, and that put them in a situation to go and win the game, and that's exactly what they did. So they were able to do it, and kind of in a reversal of like the Penn State game, it was like they snatched victory from defeat this time, and you know what I mean? So I mean, it kind of goes with my theory of like how the better team ends up finding a way to win the game, even when they're not really playing like the better team. In this case, Rutgers really was not actually the better team. They didn't even really play like it either, but they ended up finding a way to win. They came through at the end. And I mean, I think a lot of the credit really does go to Tariq Francis, because not only did he have the game winning shot, but he had 34 of Rutgers' 70 points. That's literally almost half. Like if he had 35, that
Oh,
would
I
have been
think
exactly half of Rutgers' points.
yeah, he was one away from half of Rutgers' points. That's just absolutely incredible by him.
Right.
But one thing, you've kind of pointed out before, and even Steve Peichel alluded to it in his press conference, is that while Penn is actually a top 10 3-point team in the country, but
Mm-hmm.
in this game, they were pretty much, I wouldn't say they were held silent, but their 3-point game was rendered pretty ineffective. Was there anything that
Yeah.
you noticed, like on defense, with Rutgers able to do? What was it? Their pressure getting outside? What on defense
Mm,
caused this disruption for Penn?
I mean, I think after a strong start, they did make a few early. I think Rutgers did clamp down on it. I think they definitely got to the 3-point shooters. They put man on man pressure on them. They try to force them inside because they were shooting almost every like single shot from the outside. That was like almost all they were doing. So I think when Rutgers oriented towards that, it forced tougher looks from Penn. They weren't able to get really open 3-pointers or contested, and they did not really make too many more of them. I think they ended up finishing like 5 for 21 on the night, and Rutgers was also like not great. They were like even worse, like 3 for 24. I should like check these stats, but neither team was shooting the ball well from 3. But yeah, I think defensive pressure. I think defensive pressure definitely did get to Penn, and they also just were not able to make a lot of their looks from distance after the strong start. So I mean, I think it was a little bit of both, but I think Rutgers definitely did put the appropriate pressure. But once they did that, I mean, Penn was attacking the basket. There's, I mean, another thing was, I mean, I don't know what the Rutgers strategy was in the underneath, because I mean their center Scantlebury was having his way, but that's because Agbole only played 6 minutes, and the rest of the time they didn't play the other centers either. So I mean there was really not much of a interior presence in the paint, and Penn definitely, once the 3 stopped working, they kind of went to that. They went to more iso ball with TJ Power, Michael Zanoni. They ended up making a few more threes, but again, nothing much. They went 5 for 21. 24%, and Rutgers was an abysmal 3 for 20, 15%. I mean, Zerno, after a few good games, really struggled in this one. I mean, went 1 for 7 from 3-point land, and Jamichael Davis went 1 for 5. So it's not a good night either way. But yeah, like I said, I mean, they definitely put some pressure on them, closed them out, prevented easy open looks, and I think at the end of the day, that was the biggest difference.
Would having players like Agbole, Bay Fall, and even Javante Ware even have helped inside the paint? I mean, maybe Agbole to a point because of just the sheer size. I mean, he is 6'11", and I believe Scantlebury was 6'9"
I
ish.
think that's what you
At least
said.
that's
Yeah.
what I remember seeing. So I wonder how much that would have actually affected anything. Because let's be 100% honest with ourselves here. This is a team that is going to have to play with the fact that they're going to get dominated in the paint, because this team
Right.
sucks in the paint.
Yeah.
There's that we have no center. We have no center. I mean,
Hmm.
Agbole was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the guy 2 years ago, or last year, and just nothing ever happened. Never developed. basketball moves, never developed basketball IQ. You know, he's at this point, last year he wasn't even a Division One center. Let's just get this off our chest. Last year he was not a
Right.
Division One center. This year he's a low major center. Like, I mean, starting at like an NJIT or a type place like that.
Right.
Not Division One high major like we are. So I don't even know how much you talk about how they were able to beat us in the paint. Would having any of our centers in really have helped? I doubt it.
Yeah, that's true, but it just felt weird that we were talking about them having such a big size advantage this game, and this might have been one of the few games where they would kind of have that advantage. But like I said, Bowley only played 6 minutes, and I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have. I mean, Scantlebury had some moves in the post, and he was attacking the rim, but I just didn't really like that was going like almost uncontested at certain points. But again, then I remember that there was no center in the game for most of it, and I was just like, that makes sense. So I was like wondering, I mean, maybe we're just trying to trade that for some more scoring, some more 3-point shooting. Like, I don't know, I guess it's the tactical, maybe they're trying things out. I mean, still non-conference play. I mean, we're trying to I think they're still tinkering with the starting lineup in general, because it seems like a different,
that's a damning statement in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, the different combination of players every week. So I mean, that also wasn't, or every game it feels like. So maybe they're just trying things out, but I just don't really get why you wouldn't have. Maybe they thought because they have a smaller center and they can match up size wise by having a couple forwards. So I mean, that's also a possibility in this one. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I also wonder if it's
yeah,
Pikel's motivation strategy too, because you remember what he did to Tariq Francis the past couple of games. Tariq Francis was not playing well, so he sat him, or he took him out of the starting rotation. And what happened this game? Tariq comes out and scores 34 points. I'm hoping that this is what he's doing with Ogbole. I'm hoping it has the same effect as Ogbole. I'm not going to say that Ogbole is going to suddenly turn it on and become a all Big Ten center. What I'm saying is maybe he just says, all right, because even if, even with Rutgers or Ogbole not being that great of a center, you have to look at the obvious. His job was comfortable. He had nobody behind him pushing him for playing time. Bay Fall is an absolute disaster. Devontae Ware is not a center.
Yeah,
not a center, not big enough to be a center, not a center.
Right, yeah.
So he had nobody behind him pushing him. I hope by taking him out like that, they find a way to motivate him to play harder. I don't know, maybe because I don't know about you, but I saw a lot of standing around, walking,
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Not what we want to see before Big Ten play resumes, considering we've only played 2 games in the Big Ten and we already have players walking around the court. That is, oh boy, not good.
Yeah, not ideal. Yeah, I mean that was also concerning too. I mean, it felt like Bryce Dortch was really battling out there. He ended up getting that rebound, to set up Francis, and and then Francis obviously balled out. But yeah, there was a lot of walking, wasn't a lot of offense going on. I mean, again, it feels like like there's like 1 or 2 players that score every game, and there's no help, and like that's, I don't know, that's just like it's a big problem. Like, why is there no, where's the effort? Where's the help? Where's the team basketball that is supposedly like a Rutgers staple, even when the talent isn't there. But this year we're not seeing the talent or the team basketball, and that's honestly really troubling. I mean, the 3-point shooting was not great. The defense wasn't great, and they got out rebounded significantly by Penn, and that's another thing that Rutgers, obviously that goes probably with the size, but it also goes with the effort. So yeah, they're out rebounded by quite a bit, actually. I mean, that was also just not promising, but they did end up turning Penn over quite a bit, and turning Penn over 14 times. They ended up getting 21 points off of of from the turnovers. They had 8 steals, so those things I did notice. But I mean, they were out rebounded 42-29, including 30-21 on the
And
defense.
rebounds are an effort thing too. Rebounds can be absolutely an effort thing.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so I mean, I guess part of it, again, like the size, but a lot of it was, the effort. I mean, so it just wasn't there. I mean, that was just not yeah, that it just was not good. But I mean, the fact that we were about to lose this game and very well, could have lost to this team that was, I mean, like was six
And
and
just
five
think,
now. I think. I mean, it's just not in the Ivy League. I mean, yeah, it's just not a good. It's not a good look at all. And yeah, I mean, they did win at the end of the day, but it just wasn't a game where Rutgers was like ever really in control of it. I mean, they basically got very lucky that Power missed his free throws. They're able to take care of their free throws. Francis comes up and knocks down a key shot. I mean, if one of those things don't happen, Rutgers loses another game to a mid-major. Kills the resume even further. And I mean, I don't think anyone's even thinking about March Madness, but to have a
oh
loss
no,
like that,
no,
like
no,
extend
no.
the losing streak to 4. But I mean, yeah, it would have been a real killer of a loss. With that. But obviously, like they escaped disaster. But yeah, they really
Nobody's
didn't
thinking
look
about March
good.
Madness. Not in Piscataway. Nobody's thinking about March
No,
Madness.
yeah, not
Let's
not here.
let's let's
Maybe
give
maybe
ourselves a
upper
reality
note.
check. Nobody's thinking about March. If people are just thinking about getting through the season and just getting it over with at this point,
Yeah, I
and
don't
we're
even
not
think
even
anyone's
into Big
looking
Ten play.
forward to. Exactly.
We're not
I
even
don't
in
think anyone's looking
Big
forward
Ten
to
play.
that. The way any of this has been going, all the losses, all the lackluster wins, and yeah, no, this was like a battle of two very, very average teams, and maybe like a couple really solid players like TJ Power and Tariq Francis like stepping up, having big nights, and other than that, there just wasn't a ton going on. But if anything, Penn, like they looked more impressive for the longest time. They were out rebounding, they were out shooting, even though they also shot pretty poorly. I mean, but they actually showed they did all the right things to get an upset, and that's the funny part again, that it doesn't happen. But I mean, credit to Rutgers that they ended up pulling that one out. But I mean, like, my goodness, they really just, again, they didn't look good in shooting the ball, rebounding. I mean, just about they led the game for 7% of the time. And I think probably one of the few things they did well was I mean, the defense, the turnovers, things like that. But I mean, other than that, there's just really not
There's not much.
not yeah, not a lot to write home about and at all. And I again, like, I mean, I think one of the most frustrating things is it's like you don't know where you're going to get your offense from, because for the last few games, Tariq Francis wasn't scoring a lot, but in the most of the rest of the year he was. So that's maybe one guy. And other than that, in this game, everyone else just looked like decided to take a night off or something, because
Yes.
Jermichael
Yeah.
Davis was the next leading scorer with 8, and so is Dylan Grant, and that's those guys should honestly be scoring more. Zerno, I mean, I can understand, like, you have a rough shooting night after you had 3 good ones, he had 5, and Battle at 4, and that was like an improvement for him compared to what we're like used to seeing.
Oh
So
Lord. Yeah, he was supposedly supposed to be the best 3-point shooter on the team, right? What
yeah,
happened there? We don't know. And in all honesty, we're looking at all the transfer portal acquisitions that we made. By Fall, Darren Buchanan, Tariq Francis.
right.
Um, there was others. There was another. But
Zerno.
eight. No,
Oh
Zerno
wait,
was
he wasn't really a transfer though.
he was a freshman.
Yeah,
Um, so if you're talking about that portal class, right, and you're looking at who at the time you were looking at who was going to contribute most to this Rutgers squad, you were not thinking Tariq Francis. He was small. He was inefficient at NJIT, but
right.
by fall is a mess. And Darren Buchanan doesn't really do anything,
Mm,
So,
yeah,
I mean, I guess you got to give it to Tariq Francis then. He's by far the best portal acquisition. He's not great, but he's by far the best.
yeah. He could
Um,
definitely score the ball, which is
and you have
some
to,
a sight to see for sure for us.
yeah. And again, you know, Penn was without Ethan Roberts this game,
That's true.
their top
Yeah,
scorer. They were out without their top scorer
that's
for this game.
they were, without their top scorer, they were outscoring us like 90% of the game, literally. I mean, it was
Yes.
just like,
Yeah, we beat UNLV, but UNLV was missing like 3 centers at the time.
yeah. Right. Exactly. It's like even yeah. I mean, even these games, like we're barely even the teams we're beating are missing like some of their key players, and they're a bit worse. So
Yeah, exactly. You know, but we're not beating them convincingly. We
nope.
certainly didn't beat Penn convincingly.
Yeah,
I
Vegas
hope
was like
we
the
beat.
last kind of pretty decent win that we had. I guess I would say. That was the Egbole coming out party. Um.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I hope they beat Delaware State
Oh my
convincingly
god.
because if they
Yeah.
don't, well, first of all, if they lose, like pack it in, like just cycle,
Yeah,
you're done.
Delaware
You know,
State's like looks a bit small. Like I mean, Penn was still like a team where it's like, oh well, they're kind of decent. Like I mean, don't expect them to lay down. But Delaware State, yeah, 5-9, 1-11, away from their home arena, and I mean, yeah, a lot of their, I mean, there a
they're
few,
like
yeah, they're just
they're
not good. I
like
mean,
they're like in the 300s when it comes to Ken Palm. So
Yeah, they're like one of the worst teams, and they're kind of like where like Ryder was back in the beginning of the year, and like we kind of saw how that one went. But even though some of their wins are coming against teams like like D3 teams like Keene, and like I don't even know the other ones. They got a few wins over like teams like Delaware, who's also having an abysmal season. Holy Family, I don't even know what level of basketball that is. They got a win there. Even these wins aren't great by any
Holy
means
Family
either.
is probably D2 if I'm thinking of the right place. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's D2.
Maybe D2. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because their logo doesn't like you can't click on their like thing to see like their record and things like that. So that usually means like D2, D3, and they have wins over those types of teams, but even those aren't exactly the most dominant either. And then so they beat Kane by 2 points. I mean, they beat Cheney, Pennsylvania by 18, which is like a no name or no, you know what I mean? That's I guess not
Who
even
is that?
I don't know. It's probably like a deep like their logo doesn't even pop up. So again, like got to be like a much lower level of basketball, where Delaware State is in that case like I guess well, I guess like I mean the much better team where it's like the opposite of them coming here basically is kind of like the idea. So either way, I mean they're just not a great team, and even if they were a pretty good team in their league, like that's still not really a game where Rutgers should have a lot of trouble either. But they haven't really even shown that. So yeah, I would hope that Rutgers would be able to take care of business in this game pretty relatively easily. I mean this should be one of their easiest games of the season. In terms of Ken Palm, in terms of rankings, and like I think Penn was still like, yeah, there was some intrigue and there's some like potential of like them playing. I don't think people thought it was going to be like this, but I think people thought they'd fight, and especially with Fran McCaffrey at the helm, there was some like, okay, yeah, this is still like a respectable opponent here that could give Rutgers some trouble, and obviously it turned out to be a little bit more trouble than that. Dell State, I don't think. So with all due respect, I don't think that's really going to be the type of game that Rutgers is going to be in. But who knows? Like the way Rutgers plays, sometimes like anything can happen. But I do think Rutgers, this time or in the next one, they schedule games like this for a reason. Like I think that they should be able to take care of business against them, and get some confidence rolling because. The second the new year turns, I mean, Ohio State comes to town, Oregon comes to town, Big Ten
Oh
play
boy.
is underway. A couple of games in Piscataway to open up the Big Ten slate during winter break, which should be pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, it gets quick and gets real in a hurry. So I mean, one more tune up, I guess you could say, and yeah, I mean, a little bit of a longer layoff too. They have 8 days until the 29th, but I mean. After that, the ball really does get rolling. I mean, it's Big Ten games every few days, the rest of the way out.
Yeah, we are actually not going to be having any basketball for the week of Christmas, in at least in terms of men's basketball.
Yeah,
Women's
I think
basketball
women's
too.
yeah has a similar break too. So yeah, no basketball this week actually until Sunday. Women's plays on Sunday, but yeah, I mean with that being said, maybe we should transfer over to them. Because they also had a game on Saturday, and I know you're covering that one in person, and Rutgers, similarly, I guess kind of a little lackluster at times, but they got the win over Lafayette, 54-45. And what can you tell us about how that went down?
Well, first of all, compared to where the men's team is at and where the women's team is at least think that the women's team is probably going to fare a little bit better in Big Ten play than the men's team is because I don't know exactly the talent difference between a Penn and a Lafayette. I would assume that they got to be around the same level. That's just
Probably.
me
Yeah,
taking a
I
guess.
would think so.
That's just me taking a guess. The women's team beat Lafayette by 9. The men's team beat Penn by 1.
Right, right.
Not to break it down just like that, but you talk about, the men's team lost to Central Connecticut State, the women's team lost to Stony Brook. So it's not great.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of parity. It's not great across the board. I do think the women's team is a little bit better, but especially with the game on Saturday, they started out horrible, horrible on offense. They went 1 for 15 in the first quarter, only scored 4 points, 2 of which were free throws, and let Lafayette just completely dictate to them on defense and suffocate them. Well, actually, you would think that they suffocate them on defense. The shooting was completely awry. Our offense was actually good at, our defense rather was good at getting the ball back for our offense. We had the advantage in turnovers. We had, all this other stuff. We just couldn't get a bucket,
Yeah.
Like we could not buy a bucket to save our life. I believe it was 15 turnovers in the first half. I know I was able to talk to Coach Washington after the game. There was, I want to say 15 turnovers in the first half, and only 4 points came off of those second chance. Sorry, I keep on saying turnovers. Sorry. Oh my God. It was 50 offensive rebounds. Sorry. And only 4 points came off of those second chance shots. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how were they able to put so much pressure on Lafayette and just not pull away? Like, they shot the ball 7 times and only hit 20% of their 20 of their shots. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really bad. You're talking about. Just to clarify, 20 hits on 74 attempts, shooting 27% from the field, and only hit on 6 out of 27 shots from beyond the arc, shooting 22% from deep. So, again, it's like, 70 shots, that proves that you're getting down the court.
Yeah.
You're there. You're getting offensive rebounds. We just could not buy a bucket to save our life.
20 shots and 74 attempts. Like, I mean, my goodness, that's like abysmal. And these are paint shots, like anything. Like, wow. I mean,
this was literally just getting anything. Any sort of field goal. It's just ugly.
Like what happened against Iowa? Like they had like 18 points through 3 quarters or something like that. Like,
no, but the thing is, with Iowa, they weren't even getting down the court.
Yeah.
They were getting bullied up and down the court. They were getting blocked before they even got into the offensive glass. This was 20 shots made on 70.
Right. Yeah, they got a lot of shots. Right, because
we got down the court. Don't get me wrong, but
right,
and they're gonna have to. We were talking. Like I said, we got the chance to talk to Coach Washington after the game. They absolutely obliterated Lafayette on the offensive boards. I want to say they had. I know I have it actually up here, so just give me 1 second. They had 21 more rebounds than Lafayette in total, and they, like I said, completely obliterated Lafayette on the offensive boards. They just could not stop us from getting the ball back on offense. But those second chance points were just awful.
Yeah.
It would always be, they would grab the rebound, but they would be completely getting mauled. And instead of like kicking out, passing back, they would try to go for that 2-point shot when there's 3 people around them trying to get the ball out. So and they talked about like setting up better opportunities for the second chance points. That's something that Coach Washington had mentioned. So, again, it's with both the basketball coaches. They know what the problem is. They know it. They know what the
Mhm.
problem is. They don't really. They haven't fixed it, but at least they know what it is.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it was a mess offensively. But the defense actually, for everything that the offense wasn't, the defense was. The defense played great basketball. Um, I have it up here. Just 21 turnovers. 21
Wow.
turnovers.
Really
That's
good.
that's
Yeah.
really good.
Hmm.
Not to keep harping on the offense, but there is one player who does need to get her lumps, does need to get a shout out. It's Faith Blackstone. She earned her 1,000th point of her collegiate career in the game against Lafayette.
Yeah.
She had over 22. She had 22 points for the game, and basically her and Njai, who I think I'm going to have to start calling her Njai the Engine because she
Yeah.
powers the offense pretty much
100%.
everywhere it goes. But yeah, they combined 22 plus 19. You know, you're looking
41
at
points.
41 points, 41 out of
54.
54. That means
Jeez.
the entire rest of the team had 13 points.
I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I mean, and Leicester had 8 of those. But yeah, I mean, like,
Oh yeah, Leicester did have 8 of those.
that's
So the
insane.
thing is with the women's team is that their bench does nothing. You
Right.
know?
I mean, usually Kayla Ivy has like more than 2 points because she can shoot it. She's also like a good facilitator. She leads, runs point for the offense most of the time. So, yeah, I mean, but other than that, I mean, yeah, again, it's just like there's a few players who score, but really in this one, it's a good sign with Blackstone. I mean, she had a really good game. Obviously, she was injured at the beginning of the season, and
Yeah.
she kind of was struggling in the beginning, but I think she's kind of found her flow. And she also had, I think she had like 4 steals, and she had 12 rebounds too.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was just like all
Really an incredible game for
right
her.
all around. Like, yeah, I mean, 12 rebounds as like a guard, and the steals, like, that's impressive. Yeah, 12 rebounds as a guard, 22 points. I mean, she led the team in all those categories, so she's definitely getting her buckets, and that's going to be huge for Big Ten play when
This was her
you need
first
these
like this
scorers.
was her first like real breakout game.
Yeah, I would
I
say
do
so
know she
too.
had like double digit points earlier in the season. I forget against who, but this was her first like real breakout game. And
Right.
the thing is, the reason why I have much more confidence in this team compared to the men's team is that for all the lumps that we're giving them, they do seem to be getting better with each passing game. Blackstone coming back from injury is, getting back into her mojo. Obviously, she just had her breakout game,
Right.
and
Right.
she should be fully back essentially. Lauren Swan,
Yeah, I
who
was
has
about to
been
mention that.
missing a lot of time, now has an extended period of time to return to the court. So you're kind of hoping that essentially Lauren Swan was going to be a starter,
Hmm.
where she's not going to be a starter for the Michigan State game, or at least I don't think, because they're going to want to rotate her back in, give her limited minutes, and then keep her going up from there.
Right.
But you're hoping by the time Big Ten plays in full swing, everything is we have a completed roster and everyone is running up and down the court and everybody's playing at the best capability that they do. But that's why, like I said, I have more faith in the women's team because right now they have one of their starters out on injury. They are performing at a higher level than the men's team with one of their starters out on injury. I'm not gonna say that this women's team is gonna go and win the Big Ten when Lauren Swan gets back. Let's not kid ourselves. However, I still hold firm that they can compete for the 15th or 14th seed in the Big Ten tournament. Because remember, the women's side of things still only sees the top 15 teams enter the Big Ten tournament, unlike the
Mm,
men's year, which
right.
has everybody.
Yeah.
So I do think that when this team gets back, still can be a tournament team. there are large gaps between the good teams in this conference and the bad teams in this conference. We are one of the bad teams in this conference, but
Yeah,
I still think, you know, because last year they did it. They did it last year,
they
and they
did.
didn't
Yeah,
have a player really like Nene and Jai. They didn't have a Lauren Swan or anything like that. Any of these Faith Blackstone, she's going to
right.
be a
Exactly.
proven commodity. They didn't have any of that. I mean, they had Destiny Adams, and she was great. Zakara Perkins was coming along.
Mm.
Uh, she who shall not be named, who played a couple games.
Oh boy.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
but yeah, I just that team last year compared to this team this year, I would take this team. Still need to figure out those long scoring droughts because that is not going to last in Big Ten. That's not going to.
I know. Yeah, it's just like it's happening all too often. Like it's not just one game, or it wasn't just against like Iowa
It's
or
every
against
game. It's
Lafayette.
every game.
Every game, like literally every, yeah. I mean, even against these mid majors, like one quarter they're on, one quarter they're off. Like that's how a team like Siena, who didn't get a win all season up to that point, like was within, closed the gap and was almost going to win the game, and like Rutgers won by 6. And that's how St. Peter's, FDU, those games go into the fourth quarter before Rutgers finally like pulls away at the end. It's because of like all these scoring droughts that keep happening, and Rutgers is, like struggling a lot with teams that they probably shouldn't struggle with, and then against the teams that are at their level or much better, which is going to be the case very soon. I mean, we already saw that with Iowa and with Princeton, like what those types of games could look like. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to cut it having long scoring droughts, especially in the beginning of the game when you're trying to get your feet wet, you're trying to get started. If it takes that long to get going, I mean, like that's when it's in like the first and the fourth quarter, I mean, it's just like it's really like troubling when those types of scoring droughts happen, because I mean, those are like the most important parts of the game sometimes, and like that's not when you want to be sputtering, struggling to get off the mat, and I mean, yeah, like you said, it's happening all too often. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, whether there's not studying the other team
Well,
enough,
I have a couple of
or
theories about what the
okay,
problem is. I have a couple of theories about what the problem is. The first one is lack of contribution from the bench,
yeah,
which
that's
I
true.
think will get better. Will get better when Lauren Swan comes back, because when she comes back, she's either going to start playing on the bench first, giving you somebody of quality coming off the bench, or when she moves back into her starting role, she's going to bump one of the current starters onto the bench, meaning that somebody who's starting right now is going to move back to the bench. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And right now, their starters are not, well, they're not great quality. They are quality, you know.
Right.
So that means that they're going to put somebody who can get a bucket back on the bench essentially, and have them coming in for relief, which this team desperately needs somebody who can do something coming in from for relief, which they really have not gotten so far this season.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, having more relief. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like they have like a full like five, like a full starting rotation that can. I mean, as it is, like their bench is so thin, and on top of that, you don't even have like a reliable like full starting five either, where that can all give you buckets. Like you're relying on like NJ like every game, and then Blackstone's come in recently. Lester, I guess, will give you. She's pretty good at what she does, and then you have Kayla Ivy, and
She
we're
just
kind of
needs to stay
missing.
out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the foul trouble. But yeah, I mean, it seems like they kind of have 3 or 4. They're missing like that final, kick where you can really have that starting five to go with, or if you need someone to spark you off the bench, like they're missing that one player, and I guess that's where Lauren Swan comes in, because I mean, Antonia Bates hasn't really been performing like she was a few years ago, pre-injury, where she was like the leading scorer on the team. Yeah, so I mean, they're like about one player short, I would say, of having at least a starting 5+1, and even that's not really good enough, honestly. But at least that would be something. Like right now, what they have is like 2 or 3 players who you can rely on, and the rest you're just kind of hoping for the best, and that's just not, that's not going to cut it. I mean, it's barely cutting it now. I mean, we haven't even gotten to like Big Ten play where you're playing teams, that are as good or better than you, as opposed to teams that are worse than you, and that you should be beating with relative ease, which obviously they haven't been. So yeah, and going forward, all these teams are gonna have players that are better than you, as good as you, full rotations, like all the things that maybe some of these mid majors don't have. Like they're gonna have all those things, and for Rutgers, they're gonna need to have that level of scoring at their disposal. So that's, I guess, where Lawrence Wong comes in. That's where, obviously, that's a big one, but that's where Blackstone is gonna have to step up, continue to step up, and Jai. But you're gonna need you're gonna need someone like Lawrence Swan to really give you those buckets and round out that starting rotation, especially if nobody else is gonna be able to do that.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said, because at the end of the day, I don't know how far this team is going to go. I think with her coming back, we at least have a starting lineup. I don't think there's anything really behind it. I don't think there's any quality behind it. I think it's just
you just have that at least, which is going to get you through games. It's going to. But if you don't have a full starting lineup, you clearly, what I mean, you're not really going to be able to do much. There's no real depth on this bench that you can't expect Deja Young and Kendi Brandt and all these players to give you buckets. You know what I mean? It's just is what it is.
And,
the part, you know what I mean? So you're kind of relying on
Perkins might be a different story.
That's true. Perkins might come back, and she's actually been pretty good most of the time. So I think she's also been dealing with some injury concerns as of late too. I think from one of the recent games, but again, since they're not going to have a deep rotation or anything, they're going to need a starting five and a couple off the bench, so you can give some people some rest at some points, and that's what you're really looking for. So once they can get that, that's at least going to get you through games, give you a chance, give you the scoring that you're going to need to even have a chance at the slate. Because if you don't even have that, then you're completely screwed. But it looks like they'll at least have their lineup, I guess, which is good. I guess that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, just to kind of hammer home this point that I have made on several women's basketball podcasts before this team will go as far as Njai takes them. She's by far the best scorer on the team right now. Everybody else has their night. Other people are streaky. She is the one that has flashed the most consistency out of everybody. This team, without Swan, will go as far as Njai will take them. Mm-hmm. And with that, we move on to football.
Yeah.
Wow. The men. Rutgers Football signed offensive line coach Jim Turner, the replacement to Pat Flaherty. And Arnav, I'm looking at this, and I think we got a real good hire. Now, I understand that he does have some character concerns in the past. However, with his character concerns, they seem to be a little bit overblown. The one with the Miami Dolphins was found out not to be as bad as originally thought, and the one with Texas A&M, he had a little bit of an off-color comment during a presentation, but to my knowledge, it was not something absolutely horrific. But
that's my understanding of that too. It seems like those things kind of were in bad taste, in
bad taste, but it wasn't absolutely horrific.
Right, it wasn't something that would ruin a career, show that he was a bad person or someone who can't be trusted. And I think based on the Dolphins' findings, also that that one seemed to be a bit worse because it dealt with players in the locker room themselves. But if that one also went kind of away and it wasn't as
but that one was also promising. I believe it was the guy in the Richie Incognito situation, not Incognito himself, but he said that he probably over embellished what actually happened. So I don't know. Take from what you will. Really not our position to speak on.
Right.
But from a football coach point of view, I think we have a good one because he has, he's obviously spent time in the college football world. He was the offensive line coach for 2 stints at Texas A&M between 2008 and 2011 and 2016 and 2018. He was the offensive line coach at Boston College in 2007, Delaware, where he met Kirk Shiraka from 2005 to 2006. And then he was the offensive line coach for Texas State in 2021. In that time, and that's not even 10 years if you really think about it, right? He's had 5 first round offensive line draft picks in let me just count it off real quick. In 3, 5, 9 years. 9 years. He's had 5 first round offensive line draft picks. Not to mention, I know he had another 5 that were drafted in the later rounds. Somebody from Texas State was drafted in the 3rd round after the year after he was there. So, yeah, I mean, you're talking about somebody that has only coached college ball for 9 years, and you know, 2 of those years were spent at a school like Delaware before when they were in the FCS. So, in FBS, he coached 7 years, and he had 5 first round draft picks and 5 other draft picks. 10 total, 5 first rounders. Like, that screams development to me. I don't know about you. That
Yeah.
screams development to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, definitely for what he's done at all the different stops that he's had. I mean, he's done a lot of good work, and the development definitely does stand out that he got 5 draft picks into the NFL in the first round. I mean, that's not easy to do, especially when you're O lineman. I mean, that's one position that gets, it's important for sure. But I mean, I think when you're thinking in the first round, you're looking at a lot of defense, you're looking at quarterbacks, you're looking at skill positions, some O line too. But I mean, those are the best of the best, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive. And then another 5 in later rounds, and he's definitely made his rounds. I think he's at, I mean, 2 different stints at Texas A&M, and I mean, we just saw them in the playoff. Like, we know where they are as a program, and that's probably where a lot of these offensive linemen are coming from. And in the Northeast too. I mean, I think he's also been involved with Temple, with Boston College, Delaware. His time with Delaware overlaps with Kirk Chiraka. He used to be the OC over there in 2006, actually. And, Texas State. And then in the NFL, he has experience as well with the Dolphins and the Bengals. Some rave reviews there. He's definitely, whenever he's coached offensive line, like, the running backs have been able to thrive in his system, as well as the offensive linemen, obviously, because that's really what their job is. And of course, protecting the quarterback. So the O line is, really done a good job for the entire offense, keeping it at the high level where it is. And then, yeah, I mean, after that, he has experience in the UFL. So he's definitely been around the block. And yeah, like you mentioned, some character concerns, nothing too major, but I mean, his productivity and, his development is really strong, which is kind of another thing that we've been used to with Pat Flaherty, his development, his, NFL experience. So it looks like, based on this hire, a lot of those same things are going to continue from what Flaherty did with the team these past few seasons.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can't put a value on what he was able to do at those colleges to send, again, 5 first round draft picks for offensive linemen. While Pat Flaherty was obviously one of the best unit directors on the team, one of the best position coaches on the team, I don't think we're going to be taking that far of a step back. Just, I really can't hammer home how much I believe that this is a good hire. He knows Chiraka. He's worked with Chiraka. The alignment's there. Proof of development is there. If he can just keep the character under control, he definitely is a little bit more of a Pat Flaherty type of coach, where a little aggressive, maybe probably a little angry, maybe even
Right.
has a mean streak in him. But if he can
Yeah.
teach that mean streak to his offensive lineman, I'm welcome to it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that does sound like a really good. It sounds like a really good hire, and I mean, like, the offensive line, like, is always kind of the unit that goes unnoticed. But I mean, like when you think of what happened with this year's offense, obviously think of Cadic Manis, you think of Ian Strong and KJ Duff and Antoine Raymond. But without a good O line, like none of that happens. I mean, if he doesn't have
And
the
that
protection.
offensive line held up despite,
Yeah,
a couple of
despite the
starters
injuries,
getting
how many
injured.
injuries that they had? I mean, they held up. They gave Raymond holes. I mean, Raymond took care of a lot of it on the back end too. I mean, not going down, but they gave him the holes to really burst. They gave Kalkmanis time to be able to launch the deep ball, and I mean that's why offensive line gets credit for how many points a game is scored and all those types of stats. And so yeah, I mean the offensive line did what they should have done under Flaherty and gave the playmakers the ability to thrive, and that's really what their main goal is. And it seems like based on Turner's experience, he can produce some of the best in those aspects, and that's why they got someone like that who has plenty of NFL experience, who has a lot of collegiate experience, a lot more collegiate experience even, and
Yeah, not as
develop.
old as Flaherty was, but still very experienced, over 30 years of coaching experience with them.
Right. Exactly. So he's been around the block, and yeah, like you said, I mean, as long as he can keep the character under control, there's no new issues. I mean, it should be like a really good hire and kind of a continuation of what we've had under Flaherty, which has been like exemplary leadership, success, development, like all those things. I mean, we know about Flaherty's experience with the Giants, and all that good stuff, and what he's done for Rutgers. So I mean, hopefully, yeah, we have someone else who can continue to continue where he left off, basically. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it was a really good hire. I mean that inspires some confidence
There's
in
no
me
other
that
way to cut it. There's no other way to cut it. It's kind of a good hire. It's just a good
yeah,
hire,
I mean
you
it's
know?
not even kind of a good hire, it just is a good hire, I should say. But
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean
we're not used to expecting that here, We're usually expecting, oh, we're going to get a Rob Smith. But,
yeah, right, yeah,
that's what I'm going to use
exactly,
for that's what I'm going to
for
use
like
for
the bar.
describing bad coaches from now on, like, oh, he was a Rob Smith. That's
Here's
to
a
be
Rob
my
Smith.
buzzword.
Yeah, I like
That's to
that
be
a
my
lot.
buzzword.
Yeah, so yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a good hire, and it inspires some confidence in me. That they'll nail the DC hire too, and obviously that's a bigger concern. But they definitely took care of they said they were going to do the O line first, to fill in Flaherty's role, and they did. And now I guess the focus shifts back to, well, what are they going to do at the defensive coordinator position? Because obviously we saw what happened last year, and time's ticking. But I mean, like, if this is going to be the standard of hires, then this definitely does inspire some confidence over there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that they didn't pause the defensive hiring to do this. They were doing this the entire time,
Right.
interviewing whatnot. We said it on the last podcast. He wasn't thrilled with any of the interviews. So just to clarify, just don't take it as they were pausing on doing all of that, but on doing any of the DC stuff. However, we do have some breaking news on the podcast here. Going to go a little bit off script, but Rutgers football defensive back Rene Dorilis becomes the latest player to announce his intentions to enter the transfer portal. So
Yeah, I did see that actually before, popping onto the episode here. So it seems like he was a freshman, right? And he
he was a
didn't see the
freshman.
field.
5'11", 168 pounds. Only played in 4 snaps against Norfolk State. Redshirted for the rest of the season. Was a 3-star. He went by the nickname Stretch. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I just, we seems to be losing a lot of defensive back depth, but we
Yeah,
don't know what he was going to be. That's the big thing. We don't know what he was going to be. He was
right.
a 3-star. He could have been 4-star type talent or not. We really don't know
We
what he
don't
was going
know.
to be, and looks like we'll never know unless we see him at another job nearby. But
Yeah, once he comes back with a different team and develops into like a starter or something like that. Who knows what the future could hold? If he transfers in conference, or even in the non-conference, like we play all these lower level schools, and you never know. But like, I mean, in terms of his development with us, like, yeah, I mean that's obviously over, and it just seems like a lot of players are kind of doing it for different reasons, and we're going to see a lot more of it in the next few weeks. But it just, I don't know, on the defensive side, I mean, we've seen some on the offensive side too, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I maybe for him, like, I don't know, he was just looking for a fresh start, maybe more playing time. Like, we're not entirely sure just yet, but after Bo Masco transferred out, like, I just feel like, what exactly are the concerns? Is it the uncertainty of the
Oh,
defense? I
you
mean,
you
there
have
definitely are a
to.
lot of them,
We're
but
gonna hit defensive back hard in the
in the
portal. We have to.
portal,
There's no
yeah.
other choice.
I mean, yeah, especially not now. I mean, with everyone graduating and in the few players that we kind of have left, like, declaring to leave. But it's just like, what does it say about the defense that even a lot of the players who are like, on the defense that could have stayed, that, like Masco, maybe more than, Derilas, like, what does it say that he would want to leave? Like, does that say like they don't trust, like the team, or does it say that this defense isn't good enough, or does it say that, as bad as the defense was, like, that was still their system, and now that the coordinators are out, like, they don't have that familiarity? Like, what does it say? Because I feel like there's like a bigger theme here that, like, maybe we're not like exactly hitting at just yet.
Well, I wish I could tell you what exactly it says, but I think it might be all of them. Although I do know that with Masco, it seemed to be an NIL disagreement. It
Mm.
seemed to be that he valued his contributions much higher than Rutgers did. You
Right,
know,
yeah, I
and
remember you're
let's
saying that as
let's
well.
let's not pretend Rutgers had the NIL on the table. Let's not say they didn't have enough to retain him. They did, but I think he was asking for an exorbitant amount that they were not willing to pay. So
Right.
decided to part ways. Said, "Well, we tried." You
Yeah,
know,
I guess that makes sense. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, with, NIL, revenue sharing, like, all those things are, how to build your team, and they're obviously gonna have to, pay a bunch to retain their offensive stars, which is obviously, I think, priority number one. And then, of course, in the portal on the defense, they're gonna have to hit hard again because, like Weaver, O'Neal, like, now all these linebackers, all these defensive backs hitting the portal as well, or graduating. I mean, a little bit of both, but yeah, I mean, I guess another one that, another player that, and has announced his intentions to enter the portal when it opens in a couple weeks now, is Sam Robinson, who another player who redshirted in his freshman year, and he appeared in 10 games in the sophomore year. He also didn't play a ton, so well, I guess he did, but he made one start. He made 12 tackles, but I think he was kind of like in that pipeline to have a bigger role next year. But Rutgers does still have a couple other linebackers in there, that are also kind of in that boat, because obviously this year is Jabome, Abram Wright, guys like that. But next year, I mean, Sam Robinson was kind of expected to take the next step, but I think Archie and McClary, I think, are gonna, still be in that mold, and they're both very physically gifted, talented, high recruited prospects.
they're probably gonna be either the first guys off the bench or starting because they're 4 stars and they
Yeah.
look incredible in practice, according
Yeah,
to Apple
I'm really
Sports.
excited to see that, because yeah, like you said, they looked incredible in practice. They have the physical gifts to really produce, and yeah, I mean, they're already highly recruited, and I think their body mold and their practicing and everything points to them being successful on the football field. So I'm really excited to see that. But yeah, so I mean, I think linebacking, they should be good, but it just shows that, like, even in a defense where there was already going to be a lot of transfers, even more people are transferring. So I feel like, like you said, part of it's probably NIL, part of it's probably the uncertainty of having, your defensive coordinators out. Part of it's you want more opportunities for playing time. So it's probably, everybody's different, but those are probably like the few, the biggest reasons. And I think obviously once you get a new defensive coordinator, that, alleviates a lot of those.
Definitely, it's just
Yeah, no matter what, like, people I feel like for Rutgers, like, it hasn't always been the case. I mean, people obviously are gonna leave, but it's like for a while, like, I feel like it hasn't really been all that much because of like the culture and those aspects. But obviously, you see what's going on with the defense, and so I mean, but for all the people that are gonna leave, they're going to get people coming in too. So I mean, I think that's the important part. And I mean, just because it doesn't work out for some people doesn't mean it's not going to work out for others. And on top of that, this year or next year, they're going to have a completely different defensive coordinator. So that will alleviate a lot of the concerns that people have. And with that new defensive coordinator, they're going to track other candidates who are going to be looking for probably more playing time, or higher level of college football, NIL, like all the things that Rutgers can offer prospects who might be coming in from the lower level or from the same level. That like that's going to be exciting to see who we get. And I think part of it's also going to be the vision of selling these players, like this was the defense last year, this is how you can come in and help, this is what your role is going to be, this is what you can do. Like a lot of it's going to be that. But I mean, I think the main thing now is obviously see who comes in, or see who's going to leave. And we already know a lot of the people that on the defensive side who are either out of eligibility or transferring, and filling in those spots, because like I said, they're going to need to do that. And I'm sure they have, they are going to, it starts with the DC hire, and after that it's the the personnel. Who are they going to get to fill in these spots? Because on all three levels now, linebacker, defensive line, and in the secondary, I mean, there's players that are key contributors that are departing. So they're gonna really, offense is relatively stable. The defense, they're gonna have their hands full and really putting together that that starting lineup for next season.
Yeah, they're essentially going to have to do a complete rebuild on the defensive side, and honestly, I embrace it because
Yeah, I mean, because
that
after
was a
last year,
torturous.
we need one. Like, we need a
Mhm.
rebuild, completely do.
Yeah. Well, that does it for everything that we have here today. A little bit of breaking news on the podcast. We usually don't get that,
Yeah,
but
true.
uh, definitely is a fun be able to cover things live. But thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Any your podcast apps, always remember, give us 5 stars, give us likes, subscribe. However you're listening, you know how to help us out. Please do it. It might take 2 seconds, but it really does help us out. We thank you guys so much for listening. Enjoy your holidays if we're not back in communication by
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Um, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays to you. And just remember that the bells must ring.